In today's video, we're comparing my real Soldano SLO 30 amplifier to my Wangs HD30, which is basically an SLO clone. I really like both these amplifiers. I've done videos with both of them. I got this one recently, and I already did a bunch of videos with it. It's just a really good amplifier. It has those legendary SLO Soldano tones. It's not really affordable, but it's made in the USA, and it has high quality components and all that good stuff. It sounds massive for a 30-watt amplifier, and it's quite versatile as well. And this will definitely give you that true Soldano SLO experience, no doubt about it. Now in Europe, these cost around 31 or 3,200 euros as of right now. The Wangs HD30 is made in China by the Wangs family, and it's a much more affordable amplifier. You can buy these for around $850 or so, give or take. It has similar features as the SLO, so basically the same channel layout, the same switches and everything, but the only thing that is missing is the depth control, which the SLO does have. But yeah, it's also 30 watts, and it also has two 6L6 tubes in the power section. I also did a full demo and review of this amplifier on the channel a year or two ago, which you can check out up here or down here if you're interested. Aside from the different looks, the SLO is a bit heavier than the Wangs, so I guess it uses heavier transformers and stuff like that. So yeah, will the Wangs HD30, so the affordable SLO clone, be able to match the sound of the real SLO? Let's find out. And we're going to start with a clean tone comparison with the normal channels on the clean mode, using my ESP LTD EC1000T in charcoal burst with the Fishman Fluence classic open core pickups in it on the neck pickup. For all the tones in this video, I'm going to use my familiar RedSeven Amplification Amp Central reactive load and one single OwnHammer IR from the Rockbox series from the V30 EN1999A speaker option with the modern 3 mic mix to be precise. Okay, let's go ahead and take a listen. Check it out. Interesting. So the HD30 sounds a bit more sparkly and bright, and it sounds a little bit thinner than the SLO30. Now the Wangs is much brighter because I used the bright switch on the SLO, and on the Wangs I had the bright switch turned off, and still the Wangs was brighter sounding. So I guess we can already conclude from this channel or this mode that the Wangs does have a different circuit inside of it than the Soldano. Both sound nice though, but I guess you could say that the Soldano has a bit more of a thick sound going on here. And the Wangs just has a lot of brightness on tap, and even more if you want it by switching on the bright switch. Both the amps sound fine, but in this comparison I do prefer the SLO here. Now let's move on to a crunch tone, a sort of mid-gain rock tone. And we're going to use the normal channels with the crunch switch enabled. For this comparison, I'm going to use my Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s on the bridge pickup, which is a Seymour Duncan JB. Let's take a listen. Interesting, again, both the amplifiers sound good here, but they don't sound exactly the same, as was expected. The SLO basically has a bit more muscle and meat going on in the mid-range and in the low mids, whereas the Wangs sounds a little bit more bright, thin and sizzly. They don't sound that different in this mode though, so you can get great crunch tones out of both of these amplifiers, but again, I do prefer the thickness and the muscle of the SLO here. Now that's just my personal preference in this case, but the Wangs definitely sounds good as well. And again, the bright switch was turned off for the Wangs, so there's a lot more brightness on tap once again. Now let's compare the overdrive channels for a modern high gain tone. And for that, I'm going to use my ESP LTD NW44 with the bare knuckle aftermath pickup in it. I'm very curious about this one, so let's go ahead and check out the comparison right now. Cool, so that was inside of the mix. I could definitely hear some significant differences here, but first I also want to check out that comparison in a completely isolated setting. Let's take a listen. Alright, so the differences are pretty big here, to my ears anyway. So again, the circuits are definitely not identical, I think. So I guess you could say that the Wangs is kind of an inspired by Soldano amplifier. The Wangs definitely sounds cool, and I enjoyed the tones, but in this case, the Soldano just sounds a bit thicker. It has more meat and more muscle and more punch and more tightness, basically. And the Wangs just sounds a little bit thinner and more fizzy with a bit more hollow mids, so to speak. And the depth control on the SLO also really helps with dialing in the perfect amount of chunk in the low end, so that is cool as well. So overall, the Soldano SLO30 does win in this comparison. It just sounds better overall. It sounds thicker, more meaty, and more balanced overall. It's just a wonderful amp and I have no regrets buying this thing. And it sounds massive for a 30-watt amplifier. Now the Wangs HD30, even though it doesn't sound as good, in my opinion, as the SLO 30, is still a really cool amplifier. Overall, it just sounds a bit more thin and sort of sizzly and bright than the SLO, so it has its own character going on. And on the overdrive channel, it's a bit looser and more compressed sounding. But there are still some great and sort of unique tones to be had with this amplifier. That's all for this comparison. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe down below, as that really helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this comparison. Which one would you get and why? You can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram, of course. Thank you guys so much for watching and hope to see you soon. Cheers!